I love party games because they're just such a good way to introduce new people to games. You don't have to listen to an explanation for 30 minutes. You can just start playing now. We can build our friendship immediately. A party game I've been playing a lot over the last couple of months and really enjoying is PinPoint. There are actually 3 different games in this box, which is fun because there's something here for everybody. I'll tell you though, putting 3 games in one box does make me judge all my other games a little more harshly. Look at you guys, you only have a single game in your box. What a disappointment. You could have offered me more. In Least Most, you're going to have a bunch of recognizable characters and people, and then you're going to choose one prompt. Who's most likely to rearrange the furniture? Then everybody will secretly vote for one of these people for that prompt, and you're going to get points if other people vote for the same one that you vote for. Yeah, SpongeBob, he's never satisfied. In 1 to 10, you are doing a similar thing, but you're doing it for real people sitting around the table. So it's the same thing where you're going to pick a prompt. Who's most likely to make a scene when quitting a job? And then the lower answer would mean that Grant is more likely. The higher number would mean that Dave is more likely. So in this scenario, I think I am much more likely to create a scene when quitting a job. In 1 to 100, you are getting a spectrum, like this one says cheap to expensive at the top. And then you'll roll a dice and it will give you a number from 1 to 100, and you are trying to give a clue to help people guess that number on the spectrum. So for instance, 1 says 80, so I want to give something that is much more likely to be expensive, but isn't the most expensive thing in the world. So I might say like private jet. Yeah, private jet's real expensive. I mean, it's not like Jeff Bezos going to space expensive, but it's expensive. And then everybody else will write down a number trying to get closest to 80. My favorite game in this box is Least Most, where you are voting on which celebrities or characters are least or most likely to do something. And I like that game a lot because it's one of those party games that sparks funny conversation and debate. You know, when like the question might be, who's most likely to be the greatest lumberjack? And one person is like, well, Voldemort. He could knock the trees down with his spells. And somebody else is like, are you insane? Have you seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's muscles? That guy is huge. He could be a lumberjack in real life, not your fake magic lumberjack. And it creates, you know, just funny, hilarious, memorable moments when you see what people vote on. The game 1 to 10 is probably the best game in here for couples, where you are sort of doing that same thing where you're voting on least and most likely, but you're doing it about the people sitting around the table. And it's a great opportunity to learn things about the people around you. You know, I'm not part of a couple. I am so alone, but I did force a buddy to be my mandate for the version of Least Most. And, you know, there are things in that game where you're like, yep, that checks out. Okay, that's totally what I thought about you. And then other things where you're like, really? That's what you think about me? Okay, all right, well, I guess some other people see that. I had no idea. And so it has funny surprises like that. The game 1 to 100 will draw immediate comparisons to Wavelength. Wavelength is a game like 1 to 100 where you are trying to give a clue and get people to guess a certain part of a spectrum from 1 to 100. But there are a couple of reasons I think you might like this version over Wavelength, and I'll preface it by saying I love Wavelength, but I also really love this version. One of the things that makes this one stand out is that it's a much smaller box. So if you want to travel with that game, this is an easier way to do it. The other thing is Wavelength is kind of an amorphous pick apart of a spectrum, whereas this is a precise number value from 1 to 100. So if you're playing it with like math people or engineers or something like that, I think they would appreciate the like strict number. You know, in Wavelength, you're like, what? What are you trying to do? I don't know where you're putting that. And in this, you're like, 73. I can wrap my head around 73. I know where 73 is. from 0 to 100, and I have a good idea of something that's 73 because 73 is exact. So, you know, if this is a game where I'm definitely going to play different versions with different people, and I think it's fun to have those different ways to play the game, and it makes me want to keep this game around more.